You've got folders full of digital journals you haven't touched since you hit save. If you're not reading them, you're missing out. Here's how I find the most revealing entries using a sentiment timeline. It maps out the highs and the lows across years of journal entries, like a mood weather report. Now, picture your own timeline. I'll start by showing the sentiment timeline over all of mine, but imagine what this looks like for yours. So here I'm using a tool called lifelogging AI that has some presets, one of which displays the sentiment timeline over all of my data. And it gives something like this, and typically you're going to look at the peaks or the valleys. This is sort of a directional indicator, but this time I'm going to look at that dip. I'm going to zoom in on that and see what was going on during that time of my life. So I ask it to zoom into between 1999 and 2001, and it gives me this. And so now I'm going to zoom in again, telling it to show a sentiment timeline between January and July of 2001, this time using a weekly granularity. This should get me closer, which it does. Now I have narrowed it down to the month of May. So I'm telling it, give me one for the month of May using a daily time granularity. And knowing my journals, this is close enough. Now I have this timeline where I can identify specific days that probably corresponded to that big dip that I saw on that main timeline. So I'm kind of curious what was going on in my life at that time, which I did, which was super interesting. I won't bore you with it here. So again, you should think about your own entries. You can envision your own timeline and imagine how this might help you surface content that you've long forgotten. And it might not be the dips, it might be the peaks. The sentiment timeline isn't just about spotting individual entries. It also reveals the arc of your journey, the highs, the lows, and the turning points. Before we looked at the sentiment timeline across all of my journals. Now I'm narrowing the focus, just my work journals. By isolating one part of life, it's easier to see clear patterns emerge. It's a more specific story, and a good way to show how a sentiment timeline can reveal a personal arc. As you watch, think about what your own timeline might show. The rises, the falls, the shifts. The sentiment timeline starts from 2009 when I began journaling about my work. Early on, there's a big rise. That's an exciting new opportunity. But soon reality sets in, bringing sentiment back down. Years later, another deep dip signals growing dissatisfaction, prompting a major career change in 2019. Sentiment stabilizes, becoming some of my happiest years in my career, until anticipation of another big shift creates some uncertainty and turbulence in 2024. Finally, in 2025, the successful transition spikes sentiment upward dramatically. I repeated the exercise, drilling down to find the one pivotal entry. It was a surprising find, like a hidden signal buried deep in my timeline, the kind I never would have spotted just by skimming through entries. Then it came full circle. Following the arc led me to the pivotal entry, and finding that entry made the whole arc make sense. Finding that one entry matters, but so does seeing the whole arc, the way small shifts shape things. Your timeline holds the story you maybe didn't even know you were writing. The secret to uncover might be a single entry, or it might be the shape of the whole arc. Well, that's all I wanted to show for now, but before I go, remember to think of sentiment as a directional indicator. It shows you where this story is heading. If you want a closer look, you can use a tool that tracks specific word trends to see what's driving those shifts underneath. In this example, concern builds until it spills over into a stress spike around 2016. Worry steadily fades year after year. After 2018, concern and stress both drop and stay low, except for a brief stress surge in 2024, matching the big dip we saw earlier. Let me know in the comments if you want me to dig deeper into this example. One more thing. You don't need years of journals to do this, just enough to start seeing the patterns. That could be months, weeks, or even days. If you give it a try on your own journals or diaries, let me know how that goes. I'm using lifelogging.ai to generate these results, but you could use any tool that shows a sentiment timeline over your notes or journals. And if there's one you'd like me to review, leave a comment below. So much for now.